Can't see. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ya Mahdi Madad. Good morning, good day, good evening to everyone who's tuning in for the 7th installment of our Sahabah series. I am 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗡. I'm joined today by Brother Daniel and Sayyid Ali. Just to quickly recap on the previous episodes, there's so much content to go through. Let's see if I can remember it all. In the first episode, we talked about the Sunni definition of Sahaba and how there was no clear consensus on it amongst their scholars. Then we look at the Sunni scholars and how what their stance was when it came to the aman of someone who would curse a Sahabi or the Sahaba, whether the person cursing would be a kafir or not. Then we looked at fatwa from the Sunni school of thought regarding those who would curse the Sahaba and were deemed kafirs. Obviously, death penalties were insinuated, were ruled by some, and etc. We also looked at examples when the Prophet ﷺ, he himself cursed Sahaba, which is quite interesting because does that ruling apply to the Prophet? Hopefully not. Astaghfirullah. Then we have we also looked at the definition of the term lana, and we also looked at the definition of the term sab. Lana is essentially requesting of Allah to remove or retract His mercy from an individual, and sab is essentially verbally insulting someone, or degrading them, or name calling, etc., etc. Because the word cursing in English can obviously mean either of those things. So to clear things up, we obviously went through those definitions. We also looked at the Sunni school of thoughts, Hadith collections where you would find Nawasib and Khawarij. Khawarij were obviously a deviant sect that came about just after the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Nawasib were and still are people that hold great animosity towards the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. We also looked at so many things that we've looked at. We also looked at the concept of the cursed tree, how it's mentioned in the Quran, how it's mentioned in Hadith, and who that's relating to. We talked about Bani Umayyah, who obviously the cursed tree was in reference to, according to.
I think we can do a whole show on what we've covered.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But look, at the end of the day, we did Bani Umayyah and how they were cursed by the Prophet ﷺ, obviously on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so today we're going to talk about the head honcho, the numero uno, the original Umayyad caliph.
Is he really numero uno in that sense?
Well, he was he started the concept of an Umayyad dynasty. Uthman ibn Affan, he was obviously from the same clan, but he didn't commence this dynastic succession concept within the caliphate that drumroll Muawiyah did. So today we're going to be looking at Muawiyah. I personally have a lot of things I could personally say about him, but I'll let the brothers take over.
Preferably,
I feel like it's going to be more academic.
preferably offline, I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, it's also a really good, an interesting definition or meaning of his name, but I'm sure people can Google that and find out for themselves. But today we're going to be, I talked briefly about how in previous episodes we had touched on Nawasib and Khawarij, and Muawiyah was infamously reported to have, cursed Imam Ali alayhi salam from the pulpits or have people do that. So such an act would be an act of nasb. So given that, were there any other well-known Nasibis that fought or served under Muawiyah? Daniel.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Well, yeah. Actually, all the Nawasib at that time obviously were under Muawiyah because, of course, they didn't fight with Imam Ali alayhi salam. So let me just quickly share my screen because we prepared some information regarding this topic. The Nawasib supporting Muawiyah. Actually, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani wrote in Fath al-Bari, Bishar Sahih al-Bukhari, in volume 70, page 626. They, meaning the Nawasib, are the followers of Muawiyah in the Battle of Siffin. So this is a pretty general statement. And I mean, logically, this is of course true. So if we scroll down a little bit, here's the Arabic reference. We see some of the famous Nawasib and enemies of Ali Muhammad alayhim salatu wasalam mentioned in the books of the Sunnis. For example, we have Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, about whom Abi Hanifa al-Dinawari wrote. He's Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, appointed governor by Muawiyah, the prince of Kufa for Muawiyah and his son Yazid. And he is the one who prepared the armies from Al-Kufa to fight Al-Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam until he was killed in Karbala. So, and this is in Tajil al-Munafa فزواid Rijal al-A'imma al-Arba, volume 1, page 840. And let's not forget that these are just some selected examples, so we cannot spend the whole evening listing up all the Nawasib that were supporting Muawiyah, but these are just some names that are given in the books. So then we have Thawr ibn Yazid ibn Ziyad, about whom Ibn Sa'd in his work Tabaqat ibn Sa'd, volume 9, says he's trustworthy in Hadith. But if we go over to the important part, the grandfather of Thawr was present in Siffin and participated along Muawiyah and was killed in the same war. Therefore, whenever the name of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was taken before Thawr, he used to say, I do not love the man who killed my grandfather.
Ryan, that's it. Ryan, I don't know if you want to touch on that point. That's quite an interesting one. So you've got an individual who's, whenever he heard the name of Imam Ali alayhi salam, he used to say, he killed my grandfather. So you could see how the Nawasib,
Yes.
they were those who, because obviously Imam Ali alayhi salam, he fought against the Kharijites, but at the same time he fought against the Nawasib, and you could see how the Nawasib, they still, bore that grudge against Islam.
Yeah.
We now have a very seemingly human a human reaction to family being taken, and it actually helps our argument a lot more when trying to explain this to our brothers and sisters from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, because they start off with this this perception that all the Sahaba were friends, they're blah blah blah, but they don't think about obviously the mass amount of conversion that would have taken place after all the conquering and all the wars and etc. So it's very hard if you don't actually take that into account to try to rationalize how these companions and I say the word companion very loosely, it's more of an associate really, that, or an acquaintance, that they, you know, could have had such hatred for each other, or at least one for the other, etc., etc. You know what I mean?
And not to forget hatred towards each other based on tribal issues, more or less. Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, if you look at, you know, I did say it's a very human thing, but at the same time, you know, say, you know, the early Muslims, they came and they fought my people, and or we were from the pagans or something, and they killed certain things that we did, certain family members of mine, etc. Once you become a Muslim, though, you have to accept that they were on the path of Allah. You know what I mean? So what they were doing was God's will. So if you don't see them as the good guys, that you don't see what God, the whole thing they were doing as being a part of God's will, or you don't care about God's will. You know what I mean? That's why, obviously, as we talked about last episode, it's commanded love for Imam Ali, alayhi salam, because he was only acting on God's will.
Sure. And I mean, if we are looking at them and they are supposed to be the best generation that ever existed on this planet, and they were the ultra mega over Muslims and the best role models there ever could be, then it's then we should at least expect them to accept what you said, that they say, okay, I miss my grandfather, my uncle, but I know that they were on batil and they were killed by the ones who were on haqq. So submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they were the best Muslims that ever existed, I think we could expect that from them. In my opinion. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you have any more narrations there, Daniel?
Oh yeah, sure. We have one or two, I think. Let me see. So there we go again. Screen is being shared. Do you see my screen, brothers?
Of course.
You see it? All right, great. Let me see what we have below Thor. So we're scrolling down right now. This is the Arabic reference again. Then we have Bilal ibn Abu Huraira, about whom Ibn Askir says in Tarikh al-Asakir, volume 10, page 521. Bilal ibn Abu Huraira al-Dusi, quite well-known companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was present at the Battle of Siffin with Muawiyah, and he appointed him as leader over some of his soldiers. And then we can go a little quicker here.
Daniel, was that Bilal? Was that the son of the Abu Huraira?
And there was the Abu Huraira, the father of the cat, and the narrator of 1/3 of the Sunni Hadith. Yeah.
Wow.
It's very interesting, isn't it?
I didn't even realize he had children.
I also didn't, but I know that he had a wife. Wasn't he married to a wife that didn't like him, that he used to serve, and then he was feeling like a real big man when she was serving him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's the father of Bilal and the father of kittens.
Yeah, maybe Bilal was. No, let's leave it at that. Maybe Bilal was a kitten too.
Oh, okay.
There's another word for that, right? But okay. Then Habis himself, he was mentioned by Al-Mizzi in 𝗙𝗢𝗙 al-Kamal, volume 5, page 183 to 184. He was a companion and he fought in the Battle of Siffin alongside Muawiyah. He was a commander of the foot soldiers and he was killed on that day. And so on and so on. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And let's not forget again that this was just a quick selection of it. And we should not forget that basically all of the leaders of Banu Umayyah were mentioned as Nawasib in the Sunni sources. And
I think you're still sharing, Daniel.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the button right here. So now I think it's this shared right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think we can pretty much count Muawiyah under the Nawasib too. Maybe he was the arch Nasibi, because he also used to curse Imam Ali alayhi salam. He obviously fought Imam Ali alayhi salam. So I think there's nothing.
I'm glad you brought up the point that him being the arch Nasibi is.
Yeah.
numero uno, as Ryan said, for the Umayyad leaders. But having said that, he was head of the Nawasib. In fact, I'd like to screen share with you. If you just give me a minute, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we see.
Okay. So, for example, Al-Dhahabi says that Muawiyah had behind him a huge number of people who loved him and who went to extreme lengths in their views of him and who placed him above Ali alayhi salam. It was either because he ruled them with honor and clemency and generosity, or because they were born in Syria upon the love of him, and they raised their children upon that, i.e. love of Muawiyah. And do you remember in the previous show we were talking about how the Ahlul Bayt would suffer under the Umayyad rule? And,
Yes.
you know, even keeping the name of Ali was, you know, it was pretty much like a no-no. And it's, you know, I recommend the viewers to watch that. But this is quite interesting how you could see that, you know, Damascus, which is the capital of Syria, you know, most of Muawiyah's supporters, you know, because look, in history we learned that after Muawiyah came in power, he shifted the power from, you know, Medina, Mecca, and these areas over to Syria. He made Syria the capital of Islam. So continuing on further, I apologize if I keep getting this virus pop up. And it says among them, sorry, give me a second. It says among them there were a small group of the companions and lots of Tabi'een and people of merit. They fought on his side against the people of Iraq, i.e. Imam Ali alayhi salam, and they were reared upon Nasb. So they were Nawasib. And this is from Al-Dhahabi's Siyar al-Alam Nubla, Volume 3, page 128. And I just thought I'd bring it up because, you know, it kind of fits in with what you were saying, Daniel, about how, you know, Muawiyah was, you know, he was like the horns of the Umayyads.
Also shows that at least Al-Dhahabi didn't regard Nasb as a too big issue. He's like, okay, they were upon Nasb, but they were people of merit. Like like both could exist at the same time. Like you could be a Nasibi and you still be a person of merit, which is pretty much unimaginable. And I must say, when I was still a Sunni, researching on Muawiyah and the Banu Umayyah was one of the first steps that brought me close to Tashayyuh, because I mean, after I found out the truth about them, I said, okay, there's no way I could respect Muawiyah. He was a criminal, and most of them, and there's absolutely nothing that could bring me to loving this guy. And it's pretty strange how staunch some followers of the Sunni sect are in defending him, and I think they should question their intentions.
There's something interesting I saw the other day. I was watching a video from a Sunni channel, and it was talking about the origins of the Shia and etc. like that. And they were talking about how there was, during the time of the Prophet and just slightly after, there were a group known as Shiat Ali, but at the same time there was also like a Shiat Abu Bakr, and the individual was saying that Khalid ibn Walid was a member of Shiat Abu Bakr, and he was the rival of Imam Ali alayhi salam, but the rivalry was just a friendly one. They didn't actually, it was just because they were both fierce warriors. They wanted to both show the Prophet how good Muslims they were, etc. like that. It is really absurd. You have these people that are supposed to be brothers in faith fighting alongside each other, etc., etc. But even the staunchest supporters can't even deny the fact that there was obviously a rivalry there, and they can't hide that. They can try to hide everything else, but they can't hide the fact that there was a rivalry. Then all it takes for people is just to dig a little bit deeper. All you have to do is dig. Sunnis, if you're listening to this, all you have to do is dig a little bit into your own books. Worry about our books later. I don't care, but you can. I'm not trying to get people to become Shia or anything like this, but read your own books and seriously and take it upon yourself to actually think about what has been said to you in the khutbahs and etc. like that. Because I can assure you that a lot of you if not
Well, Ryan,
all of you have been lied to.
I think, you know, at the end of the day, look, once you've kind of knocked Muawiyah on the topic of Adala, the whole concept falls down, right?
True. That's it. That's it.
Well,
That was the same for me.
that's if you consider him a Sahabi.
Exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that, because not everyone actually considers him to be a companion either.
True.
Yeah.
Also, some Sunnis don't. I mean, there are some Sunnis who are also refusing to accept Muawiyah as a Sahabi and refusing to give him credit.
Salafis even.
Even Salafis, really?
Yes.
I never heard of that. Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting because in our first show, when we talked about the different definitions of Sahaba, I think we quoted 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗙, the head of the Tabi'i, and he had a belief that a companion was somebody who fought alongside the Prophet for 1 or 2 years. I know some people made a response saying, "Oh well, this tradition is not established; it's a weak tradition." You know, anything that goes against them is weak. Even if the biggest scholars have authenticated the traditions, they will find some sort of discrepancy with a narrator from some sort of scholar of Hadith and say, "Oh, there you go, it's a weak tradition." Yeah.
MashaAllah, the knowledge of these guys, their quality of raja.
Oh yeah, they have more knowledge than Albani and you name it. You know, any of the big scholars, they have more knowledge of them when it comes to science of Hadith, yeah, authenticating traditions and weakening them, etc., etc. But the point is that, you know, argument's sake, let's just say it's a weak tradition. The fact is, within, you know, the Sunni ideology, especially within the Salafi movement, some of the Salafi community, like the 𝗧𝗦𝗕𝗘 people, they've written a book on the social system of Islam and the government economics, the social economical system of how the government should run. And they've actually quoted the narration of 𝗧𝗦𝗪𝗧 to show that this is a condition to be a Sahaba. And they don't actually consider Muawiyah to actually be a companion. So, you know, go on.
Yeah, I think 𝗧𝗦𝗪𝗧𝗑, he also was criticizing Muawiyah, and so was also the I'm sure you know the name of a famous scholar from Pakistan. He was also writing a tafsir. What was his name? He was also criticizing.
Allama Maududi.
Yes. Yeah,
But I think he did consider him to be a companion.
But he criticized him, right?
But he wrote a whole book, which, by the way, was a very interesting book. It's fortunate that hasn't been translated from Urdu to English. But you know, he completely, absolutely destroys Muawiyah in that book. He talks about how he was like he was pretty much like a king running an Islamic government, right? He lived extremely ostentatiously, and he had bad habits. And you know, this is what we're going to discuss today. We're going to discuss whether or not Muawiyah is somebody who is praiseworthy to be called a companion of the Prophet, and you know, looking at his actions, looking at his acts, whether he's considered to be a role model for society to follow.
Well, even a role model for his own kids.
Yeah.
Well, he was a role model for the Nasbis, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yazid learned a lot from him.
Exactly.
He did.
Exactly. You know.
Okay, so we've seen those hadiths from Daniel. Was that all the hadiths that you had off for that?
Yeah, that was everything that we had here.
Sayyid Ali, did you want to touch on anything?
Yeah, so you know, since we're talking about Muawiyah, I think it's important that we oh, sorry, can you see me? My camera's gone all weird.
Yeah, no, we can see you.
So, you know, since we're talking about Muawiyah, I think it's important that we bring up some of the traditions that talk about his virtue. So I'm just going to screen share with you guys. And before I do, I'd just like to play you a video clip. Okay, if you just give me a second. And this is from a Abu Usama. This is a Salafi sheikh from Birmingham. And I listened to his lectures. He's quite an interesting individual. He's quite learned in some issues, weak in others. Well, weak definitely when it comes to Mawi anyway. Today,
Sayyid Ali, just quickly, where is Green Lane Masjid?
If I remember,
is it in London?
No, I believe it's in Birmingham.
Oh, sorry. Okay, go on.
Birmingham, yeah. I think you might be confusing it with Brick Lane Masjid.
Yes, sorry. Yes, go on.
This is in Birmingham, I believe. But he's a famous sheikh. I think he's from the States originally, and he's what I consider to be more of a moderate Salafi. His talks are quite interesting to listen to. He has got knowledge, but you know, again, his knowledge on some issues is a bit weak, and I think it's important that we we discuss what he mentions today, because he's giving the wrong information out to people, and this is why it's important that any person who watches the show will realize that how they're being lied to by their own scholars, and it's our duty to show you what's written in your books, because unfortunately your scholars won't do that, because it's part of your religious beliefs. It's part of your religious beliefs not to discuss the differences the Sahaba had. Some of your scholars even went as far as saying, look, we shouldn't even narrate their traditions, and they went as far as distorting books, but which we kind of briefly touched on, but we will go into that in further shows. So without further ado, I want to play this sheikh, and let me know, Ryan, can you hear what he's saying?
Outside of the folders, we're talking.
Can you hear that?
Yes. So.
Okay, let me just put it up slightly.
Of the Muslim who's on the Sunnah, he comes into the religion and he has something against Muawiyah because of the movie The Messenger. There are some weak hadith, all of them are weak, that mention the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam talking bad about Muawiyah. These hadith are in some of the books that we respect and we recognize.
So did you hear the first point you made? So he said, when it comes to the hadith of Muawiyah, those that speak ill of him, where the prophets actually condemned him, they're weak. So that's the first point you need to remember, right? So we're going to tackle all these issues. The second point,
Ibn Hisham, he has a book of Sirah. Everybody reads that book in Arabic, and much of it has been translated into English. You're a new Muslim, and you're not on a minhaj in terms of getting knowledge. It's very easy to pick up the life of Muhammad by Muhammad ibn Haykel, or any book, and you're going to read some of these narrations that talk about Muawiyah, the companion, and the negative. As a Muslim, you have to be aware. There's one hadith in this dunya that is authentic, and it's in Sahih Muslim, and which could be understood that maybe the Prophet said something bad about Muawiyah.
Okay, so that's point number 2. So he said there's a tradition mentioned in Sahih Muslim, which is the only Sahih tradition according to him, which speaks ill of Muawiyah if it's understood in that way. Did you get that, Ryan? The second point?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, listen the third point.
But we're going to come and take this auspicious day to address that issue, hoping and praying to Allah that He'll put it in our mizan, Yawm al-Qiyamah 50. Who was this man, Muawiyah? Abdullah, the little Muslim. Who is Muawiyah? You know Abu Bakr, you know Umar, you know Uthman, you know Ali, you know Bilal ibn Rabah, Aisha, Khadija. Who is Muawiyah? Ya Ummat al-Islam. Muawiyah's kunya was Abu Abdurrahman. He had a son, Abdurrahman. And like the vast majority of the companions of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will barely be able to find a companion except that he has a kunya. Muawiyah took the sunnah, the easy sunnah of just calling yourself Abu, whatever your eldest son is, or even your eldest daughter, and that was the minority with them. May Allah be pleased with all of them. He's Muawiyah, the son of Abu Sufyan. So his father was a companion. His father's name was Sakhr ibn Harb, and he was a serious personality in Islam, in Jahiliyyah and in Islam. And the hadith of the Nabi applies to him when he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, خيركم في الجاهلية خيركم في الإسلام إذا فقهوا. The best of you in Jahiliyyah or the best of you in Islam if you get comprehension. His father Abu Sufyan was the man in Jahiliyyah. Probably the way men are today, many men would not deserve the right or be afforded the opportunity to have an audience with Abu Sufyan.
Yeah, because Ryan, at this point, point out.
Did he say Abu Sufyan was the man in Jahiliyyah?
Yeah, he was. And this is true, by the way, because Abu Sufyan.
Yeah, for the mushrikeen, yeah.
He was, he mentioned.
The man.
Can you guys mute your microphone for 1 second? I apologize. It's just a bit.
Sure.
So he's mentioned Muawiyah, he's mentioned Abu Sufyan, his father, and he mentioned that, you know, Abu Sufyan was pretty much the man in the times of Jahiliyyah. So it gives you an idea what type of person he was, because we know from history, Abu Sufyan only accepted Islam after the conquest of Mecca. So these were amongst the last few people who accepted Islam. So, you know, there's like a saying, if you can't beat them, join them. And this respected sheikh did mention the movie The Message, which again I recommend the viewers to watch it, because it's quite an interesting movie, and it approaches history from a historical perspective, and it shows how Abu Sufyan's father Muawiyah accepted Islam after the conquest of Mecca.
He was in his personality.
Nevertheless, you know, we also see how Abu Sufyan, after, you know, embracing Islam, because remember, as Muslims, when one recites the Shahada, when one recites, you know, I believe, you know, I bear witness in Allah and Muhammad is the messenger, even if he's a hypocrite, you still have to treat him as being a Muslim, okay? And the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him and his family, was aware of the hypocrites who were around at the time, but outwardly, if they behaved as Muslims, they were still treated as Muslims. And this was one of the rules. So yes, you could say, you know, we have to question whether or not, you know, Abu Sufyan's conversion to Islam was something sincere or not. And definitely when we look at, you know, even naming your children, you know, we learn from history that, you know, one of the practices from the people of Jahiliyyah was they were very superstitious people. So, you know, in order to prevent giving a bad eye to the child, they used to name their children, you know, very superstitious names. And it's interesting that, you know, the speaker mentions the name of Muawiyah, which, by the way, according to some scholars, it actually meant barking female dog, barking bitch. I think Suyuti mentions this, I believe. But having said that, other people have translated differently. Some people say that, you know, Muawiyah means somebody who's got, I believe, strong arm, or somebody who's got power. And, you know, interestingly, some of the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt, they had Sahabah who were called Muawiyah. So, you know, again, we need to, this is a whole big topic, whether or not these names were kept under taqiyya. You know, what was the reason why they kept the name Muawiyah? Because, you know, we know for one thing that, you know, even keeping the name Ali, Hassan, Hussein were difficult. So, you know, perhaps it could be that the companions of the Imams adopted these names in order to keep themselves protected. So I'm just going to continue anyway.
Or say they could have just been converts. You know what I mean?
That's definitely the other way you can look at it. But, you know, let's just finish off with this.
But there's one thing I just want to add. I mean, if he is mentioning the Hadith, the best ones in Jahiliyyah, the best ones in Islam, or the best ones are those who were the best in Jahiliyyah. But I mean, this doesn't even closely refer to Abu Sufyan. He was the worst possible person in Jahiliyyah. So, and this is for many Sahaba, by the way. They were very vile people in their Jahiliyyah.
Exactly.
I think the way that they're interpreting it, because you have to look at it, you know, Sunnis are very, they're seemingly very focused on dunya. So when you gain power in the dunya, they relate that to, you know, God, you know, putting favor upon you. So when they're talking about strength in the Jahiliyyah, or being a big man in the Jahiliyyah, they see it as someone who's powerful.
Yeah, that's more this gang attitude.
Actually, no, he's going to elaborate on that, what he meant. So check
okay.
All right. Oh, okay, cool.
Check that.
His boy Muawiyah up to be the leader of the people, which he became. From the virtues of Muawiyah is the fact that he embraced al-Islam during the days of the Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, when the people prevented the Nabi from making Umrah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he wanted to have some negotiations with Quraysh. Muawiyah said he embraced Islam that time, and that's important because it preceded the time when Mecca was conquered. His father and the other chiefs of Quraysh accepted Islam after Mecca was conquered. Muawiyah accepted Islam before that. Not at the very beginning. He fought against the Muslims in the beginning, in Badr, in Uhud. He fought against the Muslims. But
see, Ryan, these were people who, you know, they were arch enemies of the Prophet. Yeah. And, you know, it just goes to show what type of people the Holy Quran mentioned when it talks about the cursed tree, you know?
Exactly.
But anyway, let's just finish this off.
The days of al-Hudaybiyah, he embraced Islam, and this man kept his Islam quiet. He was afraid of his father. He was afraid of the chiefs of Quraysh.
Wow, so listen to this one. So if Abu Talib alayhi salam doesn't openly disclose his faith, and we call it taqiyya, yeah, then it's like, oh, that's not possible. How can that be possible? But according to what he just said now, Muawiyah, he did taqiyya and he didn't even disclose his faith to his father. So check that one out. He hid away his faith from his father.
SubhanAllah, but is there any evidence to support that in their books?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's their headache. He should have thought of that when he said it. Anyway, check this out. Hold on, it gets better.
And what his Islam would do in terms of bringing down the honor of the father. So it goes to show nobody here has the power and the manliness and bravery of Muawiyah. But it may be that a person's situation necessitates and dictates that he has his Islam. Like the man in the Quran with Musa and Fir'aun. It's possible. Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, obviously, since he embraced Islam, he believed in the Nabi and he died in that Iman. So the most important characteristic and virtue of Muawiyah, he was a companion. Ummatul Islam, I say again to you from this minbar on this day, no matter what a person does, no matter who he is and what he accomplishes in this dunya, he can't do enough. Whatever he does, the magnitude of that action, that ibadah, that sacrifice, can never and will never reach the level of what it was just to be a companion. That deed alone,
wow,
as a companion, that alone surpasses any and everything everyone else can do after the companions. We mentioned that so many times to you. Go to your grave understanding that as a Muslim, that the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no one can surpass them. One of the greatest scholars in Islam, bigger than Imam al-Bukhari, bigger than Imam Muslim. His name is Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak. He was Amir al-Mu'minin in Hadith. He was an ulama, a scholar of al-Hadith. He was a rich man. He was a mujahid. He was a scholar. All of the characteristics of good akhlaq were embodied in this man. Someone asked him, the Khalifa Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz is from the Tabi'een, and he put a lot of good for the Muslims in the Muslim Empire. Someone said to Abdullah ibn Mubarak, is Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, is he better than Muawiyah? It was fitna during the time of Muawiyah, but Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he is one of the descendants of Umar ibn al-Khattab, and he did a lot of khayr. And Imam Ahmed considered Umar ibn Abdul Aziz.
Now, there's something interesting here. Something has been cut off here. But it's quite clear here that the statement of this individual was that Muawiyah was obviously better than him. So I'm not going to carry on further with this video clip because the viewers out there can go online and listen to it. But the point being is, he's obviously given a brief summary of, you know, what his position is about Muawiyah. And that is, number one, there is no tradition that, you know, all these traditions that speak ill of him, they're weak. There's one tradition that perhaps could allude to him being cursed, but he will offer a different interpretation there. And finally, you know, hadith in virtue of Muawiyah, because according to this individual, there are hadith of the Prophet as well, which mention the, you know, the praise of Muawiyah. So without further ado, Ryan, I'm going to pass it back to you.
I just want to make 2 points regarding what he said.
Sure.
Firstly, he said honoring the father was something honorable that Muawiyah did, and that's why he didn't want to shame his father, etc., and, you know, blah blah blah. And he said that was an Islamic concept. Well, in that sense, did Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, was he honoring his father when he destroyed his idols? Allegedly, according from the Sunni narrative, Nabi Ibrahim's father was a mushrik.
Yeah.
And he went out and destroyed his idols, and etc., etc. I don't think that doesn't make any sense. Firstly,
that's a good point to make. I like that.
And secondly, when he talks about, you know, the status of a companion is the greatest thing you can ever essentially be, no matter what you are later on or before, you'll never reach such a level, which I find quite odd, because was not Malik al-Ashdar, was he not a companion of the Prophet? Did Malik al-Ashdar, did he not convert during the time of the Prophet?
Yeah, they say he apostated.
Yeah. But But again, this is a big topic.
But see, if he converted in that time and he was a Sahabi, right? And so he reached that status. So that makes him one of the most highest people of Iman according to this concept. So then someone from that position can fall from grace to that extent. If so, then why can't it be the same for Muawiyah? Even if he was, say if he was a mu'min, why can't he fall from grace? Just like they say Malik al-Ashtar did.
According to some Sunni scholars, Ibn Muljam was a Sahabi. So wow, he was one of the best persons ever, huh? The one who killed Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was one of the greatest persons. You can ever reach his status, or what?
Well, he's mentioned in the books of Hadith in terms of the biography of companions. Some say he's not a companion, but I think there is an attempt to cover it up that he was a companion. If you can understand my point, you know.
No.
Yep.
And there's nothing to justify this claim at all. Nothing. How can they say that? And it's not even true, because they have a hadith. I don't know the source right now, but Rasulullah ﷺ says in one Sunni hadith that the best ones are those who believe in him, but they didn't see him.
That's correct. 50 times better, I believe.
50 times better.
Yes.
Yeah. So how does that fit together?
Yeah. In fact, the Sahaba themselves never held this belief that they were the best of generations.
Yeah, that's why they kill each other.
That's why they kill each other, you know?
According to the Sunni narrative, Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he astaghfirullah, didn't even think he was the best prophet of all time either. So it's just contradiction upon contradiction.
Yeah.
I really hope there are Sunnis watching this right now. Really. Because you guys need to seriously think about reassess your beliefs. Because
Hadith is in Bukhari, Ryan. It says that anybody who claims I'm better than Jonah,
Yunus.
Yunus.
He said it, but it was both. I think there's a hadith regarding both of them, respectively.
And anyone who claims that they are better than me, they're liars. So, you know.
Yeah, it's absurd. I think it's interesting too when you look at the Sunni hadith. I was talking to a Jewish brother a few months ago, and he was so insistent that his understanding of Islam, he goes, Islam is just a copy of rabbinical Judaism, because his understanding of Islam was predominantly from the Sunni side, and obviously they have the Israeliyat, you know what I mean? So, you know, if there was, you know, and we obviously get accused of being, you know, crypto Jews and stuff all the time, and et cetera, because you'll find some narrations regarding
the ones who believe the Prophet saw a group of Jews fasting in the shore.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting when you see that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is essentially a Gentile, arguably a Gentile, he's playing himself down to the Jewish prophets or the Beni Israel prophets, which is what a Jew would do. They would play him down, you know what I mean? He's like, yeah, he may have been a prophet, but he's not, you know, Musa alayhi salam. So it's just another interesting point that I think I really hope Sunnis are watching this. If anyone is watching this right now, please send this tag, share this around all your Sunni friends, get them to watch this, because this is a very important show. Because this is the character in which the unthreading begins.
Yeah.
Like it really begins. It's Muawiyah.
Absolutely.
Because once you lose out on Muawiyah, then you got to start looking at, all right, well maybe Muawiyah. Who else? You know, Muawiyah is not a Sahabi according to some scholars. So what are the other views of other Sahabi and stuff like that? You know what I mean? So inshallah ta'ala, you know, the light is shed as we continue. But
that was exactly what I felt, because when I found out about Muawiyah, I thought to myself, okay, I've been lied to regarding him, and they told me he was so awesome and so great, but he was a criminal. So then I have to investigate all the Sahaba, because maybe they lied to me about other Sahaba too.
Well, it's a religion based on concealing things and hiding.
Yeah, whitewashing.
Yeah, hiding the actions of the Sahaba themselves. You know?
Yeah, and exactly. And actually, I didn't touch on that at the very beginning because I was going through so many points, but we talked about that previously in our series, about how Sunni scholars would often conceal certain immoralities or deviant acts of some Sahaba.
They even
If not all.
encourage that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really quite sad.
Should we tackle what he said? So in terms of hadith and virtues of Muawiyah.
Yes. Daniel, do you have any
I do.
Oh, I say yes.
Yeah, I do. Okay, so I just want to bring up my screen for sharing. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So the first scholar I'd like to bring up, oh, sorry, one too many viruses in this viewer, is Al-Hafiz al-Mubarakpuri, and he wrote a famous sharh of Tirmidhi, and he says, it should be known that many hadith have been narrated about the virtues of Muawiyah. However, these reports are not authentic in terms of their transmissions and chains. 𝗧𝗦𝗧𝗜𝗢𝗙 ibn Rahawayh, who was by the way, 𝗧𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗙 ibn Rahawayh was the Sheikh of Bukhari, Muslim, and others, and Nasai and others have pointed out the certainty about this. Ibn Abi Asim has authored a book about his virtues. So we have one individual who wrote a book about his virtues. Likewise did Abu Umar, the servant of Thalab, and Abu Bakr al-Naqish through Ibn Jawzi. So some scholars did write books here in virtue of Muawiyah, right? Though Ibn Jawzi has put some of those narrations in his book of fabrications. Then he quotes 𝗧𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗙 ibn Rahawayh, who again was the teacher of Bukhari, that he said none of the narrations about the virtues of Muawiyah are authentic. So as you can see, according to one group of scholars, they deemed his narrations to be reliable, whereas other individuals, like the teachers of Bukhari, who were masters of hadith science, they did not consider these reports that talk about the praise of Muawiyah. Because, you hear all these different things about Muawiyah's virtues. He was a scribe of the Quran, he fought in some battles, etc., etc. So if we take all these things into consideration, you would find that none of the past scholars actually consider these to be merits in virtue of Muawiyah, especially when it comes to a hadith of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him. And it says, finally, and Ibn Jawzi has narrated from Abdullah ibn Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the son of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, that he said that I asked my father about his thoughts on Ali and Muawiyah. He put his head down and contemplated and said, you should know that Ali had many enemies who tried to find faults in him. Like today, just like today, you have the Nawasib, who, by the way, nobody would really identify themselves as being a Nasbi, because this is what the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam have taught us. That no one will ever say they're a Nasbi. You can tell they're Nasbi from their actions, and this is why you will always find the present-day Nasibis and the lovers and the supporters of Muawiyah looking for faults in Ali. Why did Ali do this? Why did Ali do that? Some people worship Ali. So what they're doing, they're trying to find faults in actions.
And I just want to touch on something quickly when it comes to Nasb. For the brothers and sisters from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah that are watching this video, a Nasibi isn't necessarily, in our opinion, someone who's a Sunni. A Nasb can be held by anyone regardless of what they identify as. You know what I mean? Someone who identifies as a Shia could have Nasb. You know what I mean? But it's you can identify it by the things they'll say about certain characters.
Absolutely.
And et cetera, et cetera. I've personally come across Quranis who completely reject hadith literature as a source of law, who also could very easily be deemed as Nasibis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So as well, it doesn't matter if they're a Christian or a Jew, etc. Nasb is just the animosity.
Yeah.
And in this context, it's regarding the animosity towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam.
Of course. And let's not forget, this is the same Ahlul Bayt who, you know, Imam Ali alayhi salam was praised by the Prophet. He was called his nafs. You know, the verse in the Holy Quran, the verse of Mubahala. You know, the virtues of Imam Ali alayhi salam are endless. We can talk about them. We can do a whole show about how he was, you know, the most beloved creation of Allah, according to the Hadith mentioned in Majah. You know, he was considered from, he was, his superiority on the issue of fighting in war, in battle, his superiority in knowledge. So many things we could talk about in the virtues of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Ahlul Bayt. Because Imam Ali alayhi salam obviously was part of the Ahlul Bayt. But the point is that you had these individuals who were from the midst of the Sahabah, who were Nasbis, who made hatred of Imam Ali alayhi salam as part of their, you know, as part of their belief. And, you know, as we presented earlier, they had many reasons for that, which, to go through, none of them can be justified. Nevertheless, continuing on what we said, so Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who is one of the 4 Imams of the Sunnis, so you have, you know, obviously Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, and Ahmad ibn Hanbal. So Ahmad ibn Hanbal, one of the Imams of Al-Sunnah, you know, his son asked him about Muawiyah, and he said, I asked my father about his thoughts on Ali and Muawiyah, and he put his head down and he contemplated and said, you should know that Ali had many enemies who tried to find faults in him, but they could not find any. Okay, so they referred to a man, Muawiyah, who used to fight against him. So they praised that person to antagonize Ali. Okay, so he, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, stated by this that whatever those people have fabricated of the virtues of Muawiyah have no basis. So there you have it. So, you know, the teachers of Bukhari, 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗓𝗕𝗦𝗢, and, you know, famous scholars like Ibn Jawzi and others, and Nasai, said that, you know, there was nothing authentic in praise of Muawiyah. There's no traditions from the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, in virtue of Muawiyah. And our viewers, you know, especially our Sunni brothers and sisters who are probably watching this show, they need to know this, that there's nothing praiseworthy mentioned by the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, in virtue of Muawiyah. And again, the reason why we present these scans is for individuals to go out there to, you know, purchase these books and, you know, read it for themselves if they don't trust it. If they don't trust what we're showing, by all means, go to a bookshop, purchase it, verify the text, go ask the scholars, because the truth is they're not going to tell you this stuff, because they need to hide it away from you. They need to hide these realities away from you, because, you know, they are, you know, they've been programmed in such a way that they themselves don't realize they have become, you know, Nasbis themselves. And you see that in reflection of, you know, the way their supporters and followers constantly will try to find faults against Imam Ali alayhi salam, you know.
I think that's quite yeah, right.
Sorry, I think it's quite interesting too. Like, someone may not necessarily even know that they're a Nasbi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the animosity might just be something that they have within them that they haven't really even addressed themselves. So it's, you know, if you haven't recognized it, how can you address it? You know what I mean? So as we can see with this narration that we just saw.
Right, it's like, for example, when we talked about the incident of the door, you know, people be like, oh, why didn't Ali defend Fatima then? You know, as an example, why? So you could see that what they're doing is they're finding faults in Ali alayhi salam. And, you know, it shouldn't come as a surprise, because, you know, this is the religion of Muawiyah. You know,
that's exactly the mindset that was responsible for the fact that Allama Nasai was killed by his fellow.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to get to that. So here's the scan of the book. Famous.
You also have that, all right.
Famous commentary of Sayyid Tirmidhi, very respected. Again, if I can bring up this famous Sharh, and, you know, within Bukhari, say Bukhari, there's 2 famous commentaries which are relied upon. This is one of them, Umdatul Qari fi Sharh Sayyid Bukhari by Allama Badruddin Ayini, and he mentions, and he says, if you say that many traditions have been narrated regarding Muawiyah's virtues, I would say yes, but none of them are reported with authentic chains of transmission. Okay, and that's what's been declared by Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, the teacher of Bukhari, and Nasai, and others. That's why he, Muhammad ibn Ismail Bukhari, meaning that the individual who compiled Sahih Bukhari, named the chapter as Dhikr al-Muawiyah, the mention of Muawiyah, and not the merits, the fazail of Muawiyah. And that's in 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗕𝗘, volume 16, page number 363. Again, there's a scan for you, and by all means you can check this out. The Arabic text is there. Again, Ibn Hajar Asqalani. So we've had the famous commentator, famous individual, Badruddin Aini, who did the Sharh Bukhari. Now we have Ibn Hajar Asqalani, who is a very respected individual, especially in the science of Hadith. He was an Ashari scholar. Some say he later in his life, went back and he joined the Salafi ideology or the Minhaj in terms of being Athari or whatever. But that's a debate for another time. And his commentary of Sahih Bukhari is the most respected commentary. Even till today in places like Saudi, they really promote his commentary of Bukhari. And he says, again, Bukhari on the topic of the biography of Muawiyah wrote a chapter named Zikr Muawiyah, the mention of Muawiyah, and he did not write praise or merits of Muawiyah because the merits cannot be derived from this hadith. So, and then he says Ibn Abi Asim wrote a book about Muawiyah's merits, and so did 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗕𝗘 and Abu Bakr al-Naqsh, and Ibn Jawzi recorded in his book Mawdud. Some of those traditions which the previous scholars had recorded in the books, and then he quoted 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗡𝗦 ibn Rahawayh, that he said nothing is authentic in praise of Muawiyah, and there's a reason which made Bukhari avoid using virtues of Muawiyah, and that's in Fath al-Bari Sharh Sahih Bukhari, volume 8, page number 263. Again, the scans there, the front cover, the publisher, where it's printed. There's the scan there in Arabic, and just want to bring up one more quote. So this is a very interesting individual now, Imam Nasai, and he was a respected Imam, compiler of Sunan al-Nasai, I believe, and he wrote many famous works. Very respected individual, and it's interesting because in Ibn Halakan's book, the Biography Dictionary, which is available online, volume 1. There's a very interesting quote under the biography of Imam Nasai, and it says, Al-Hafiz, let me zoom in a bit slightly more. Oh, I think I'm zooming a bit too much.
You also wrote the book with only hadith praising Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam.
I'm going to screen sharing while I quickly bring up the reference. I don't know what you guys want to quickly mention something before I read Nasai's biography.
Yeah. That was just quick drop in that Allama Nasai wrote a very nice book with a hadith praising Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, like I said, besides Imam Ali. Very beautiful hadith in there. I don't know how authentic they regard it, but I think that he was pretty sure that most of the hadith he mentions in there are authentic, including the hadith of the bird and hadith al-wilayat.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so I'm back again. Thank you for that, Brother Daniel. So once again, I'm going to screen share, and I'm going to bring up the quote for you. So this is from Ibn Halakan's book, and volume 1, and the PDF is available online. I apologize, I'm not going to zoom up just in case I might lose it again, but it says Nasai, the Hafiz Abdurrahman ibn, so is his name, and he was a compiler of traditions. He was an inhabitant of Cairo, in which he got his works, got in circulation, and it carries on, and then it talks about his time in the Muawiyahs in Damascus. So it says here, Abu ibn Ishaq al-Isfahani gives the following account of his death. Okay, so this is how he passed away. I heard that elders in Cairo relate Abdurrahman left Misr, Egypt, towards the end of his life, and he went to Damascus, where he was asked about what he thought of Muawiyah and what the traditions he knew respecting the merits of that praise. To which he made this reply: it's not then enough for Muawiyah to enter into salvation on equal footing with others, but he must even surpass them by exclusive merits. But some relate his answer was, I know not any traditions. So he was asked about the virtues of Muawiyah, and he says, I know not any traditions respecting the special merits, but this: may God never fill the belly of Muawiyah, to take the belly of Muawiyah. So it carries on and it says, now this doctor was an advocate for the rights of the Khalifa Ali. So the people began to strike him on the sides, nor did they discontinue till they thrust him out the mosque. In another account, it said that they struck him on the testicles and trod him under his foot. So this poor individual, Imam Nasai, he was asked by the people of Sham, tell us the virtues of Muawiyah. And he said, listen, I don't have any. And what they did was they rushed him. They attacked him, and they stepped on his testicles, and they killed him, the poor man. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that, or...
What a lousy way to kill a man. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, that's just so gruesome.
Yeah. This reveals
so
a certain mindset that some people still have until today. This exactly this mindset of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and all these other bastards.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I don't have anything. I'm just speechless. I think it's disgusting, and I don't really want to give it the time of day.
I think I heard the B word, but I think...
Yeah, sorry for that, but I mean, I'm talking about these terrorist groups. I mean,
of course,
pretty much most Sunnis would agree with me too that ISIS are bastards.
Okay, so well, I hope so.
I hope so, yeah.
Okay. So okay, so I'm just going to bring back my screen up again. I just want to continue with some more scholars. Can you see my screen?
I see it.
You can see it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So again, another sheikh was asked about the virtues of Muawiyah, and he says there exists no hadith in praise of Muawiyah that are sahih. Okay, this is in the book of 𝗙𝗢𝗧𝗏𝗏, and it's in volume 2, page 420. Front cover, and there's the scan. These books, the reason why I'm bringing them up is, I'm leaving it for the individual to go out there to actually purchase these books and read the status of these scholars and how their works are respected in Sunni scholarship. We're not just quoting any individual person. These are all notable scholars. And finally, I want to bring up the hadith which, this sheikh we were watching earlier, Sheikh Abu Usama. So he says that there's many traditions of virtues of Muawiyah, which again, as we've shown, that's not true. However, he did say there is one tradition from, say, Muslim, which could possibly be interpreted to say that he was cursed by the blessed tongue of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him. I think Brother Daniel is going to probably touch on that, but before he does, I just want to share this quick hadith as a reminder for the viewers, and I think we brought it up in the previous show as well, and that is in the chapter of, so this is in Sahih Muslim, you see from the top, Sahih Muslim, book 32, hadith number 6298, and the hadith, the chapter is called, whoever the Prophet reviled or prayed against by the Prophet, whoever is cursed, reviled or prayed against by the Prophet when he does not deserve it, that it will become purification and reward and mercy for him. So remember, by definition, a Sahaba is anyone who met the Prophet, who was in his presence, irrespective of not if they're blind or even deaf. By definition, they would probably be considered to be a companion, as long as they died upon Iman. So you can see by the name of this chapter, these were people who the Prophet met, who he cursed and reviled against, who did not deserve it. So they were Sahaba. So let's have a look at one of the narrations, which we did mention in the previous show. And it's Ibn Abbas reported, I was playing with the children, that Allah's messenger happened to pass by us. I hid myself behind the door, and the Prophet came out and patted my shoulders and said, go and call Muawiyah. I returned and said, he's busy and taking food. He then again said, go call Muawiyah. And then I went and I came back and I said, he was busy in taking food. Whereupon he said, may Allah not fill his belly. And Ibn Muthanna said, I asked Ibn Umayyah what he meant by the word hathani, and he said it means he patted my shoulders. So you can see now that the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, in fact, cursed Muawiyah by his blessed tongue, and it's been mentioned in the chapter of whoever is cursed and reviled and prayed against by the Prophet, which makes it even more clear. And in light of what we mentioned in terms of, there being any authentic traditions in virtue of Muawiyah, we can quite safely say that this tradition cannot be considered as a virtue of any kind. I don't know, Ryan, if you want to mention anything before it gets passed back to Daniel.
No. I think the hadith and the narration speak for themselves, really. You know what I mean? Like, this guy was just the worst. He really was. I don't know how anyone in their right mind can read this, and I encourage them to all fact check it for themselves. That's why we share the narrations and stuff, on the videos and etc. as we go. Go fact check it for yourself, and then go, ask sheikhs. Go ask different sheikhs. If you're not getting a sufficient answer from your local sheikh, go ask another sheikh, or go ask a sheikh that's still Sunni that has a different opinion, and see what their reasoning is. You know what I mean? Obviously, if they're a Sunni, why would you have no reason to distrust them? You know what I mean? Go contact the gentleman over at 𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗕𝗦 and see what they have to say about it. These are guys that are really, pushing for the, guys like Sheikh Mazen, who's appeared on the channel and etc. like that. These are guys that are, mashallah, very knowledgeable when it comes to their own school of thought. You know what I mean? And for them to come to such a conclusion, and also they push for khilafah, these guys. That's the main Sunni thing. You know what I mean? They're the ones actually going out and doing something. They're not funded by any certain nation, state. They're not, et cetera, et cetera. Well, apparently, or seemingly, because there wouldn't make any sense for any nation state to support them. So go see what those guys have to say. Because, it's one thing to listen to a bunch of 12ers, a bunch of Rafida saying all of this.
Majusi.
Yeah, a bunch of Majusi, mushriks. But, go ask the other Sunnis. See what they say. You don't want to take it from a Sufi? That's fine. Some Sufis praise Muawiyah. Go ask the guys at 𝗧𝗦𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧
Go ask the Sufis who don't praise Muawiyah.
Yeah.
Whatever you.
Go ask anyone. It doesn't matter if someone's, if someone, at least if you're a Sunni and you follow the Rashidun Caliphate, right? That's your main four boys, right? They're the guys that, you need to be making sure they're the rightly guided, okay, in your eyes. So anyone else, anyone who shares those four, you should be going and asking them as to, the opinions that we're bringing up, or the stances that we bring up, see what their opinions are and stuff like that. Because it shows that you can still be a Sunni and still not agree with Muawiyah, right? And I've said earlier in the show that, and a few the other boys have as well, that this may be a slippery slope, etc. Don't think about it like that. Just go see case by case this individual. What's the evidence for him being a dual? If it's weak, then reject it. You know what I mean? And then inshallah, then you can focus on the other guys that we'll be talking about later in the series.
Just on a quick point.
Yeah.
We can clearly establish that according to this hadith, the Prophet cursed Muawiyah, who would be considered a companion, right? And according to the hadith of Sahih Bukhari, which again we mentioned in the previous show, anyone who insults a Muslim is considered to be, fusuq, or anyone who, according to some of their views, according to some of the Sunni beliefs, anyone who curses a Sahaba, he would be a fasik, he would be a ghafir, or whatever you want to call it, right? So now if a person curses a companion, it's considered to be an act of fisk or kufr, or whatever you want to call it. Then what are we going to say about the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him?
I know. Well, logically, it doesn't make any sense.
Start, right? And let's just say, okay, so let's just say now it's whatever the case. Okay, whatever the case, the Prophet's done this. He's cursed Muawiyah. Okay, now if it's a sunnah of the Prophet and it becomes a blessing for that person who's not worthy of it, because remember in some hadith they say that anyone who curses somebody and is not worthy of it, the curse goes back on them. You know, why do these people have a problem when Shias do it when it, you know, when it's sunnah to curse the Sahaba and swear at them and insult them? I mean, after all,
it might turn out as a blessing for the ones we curse, right? If we curse somebody, it might turn out as a blessing for them.
Right. Exactly, because I think they look right. The Quran has said that if you love Allah's messenger, follow him. Okay, if you love me, okay, and if it's sunnah to curse the Sahaba, then why don't you curse Muawiyah?
This is why it's so stupid, the idea of an infallible final messenger, because of a fallible final messenger, because if you're ordered to follow his sunnah, then he does something, then you say, oh no, it's only, you know, is in his deliverance of the message that he's infallible. Then what's the whole point of the sunnah? You know, it doesn't make any sense, guys. It's so stupid. It's such a stupid belief. You know what I mean? Like, the guy, you have to follow, you know, you have the sunnah, you have hadith talking about how he went to the bathroom. This is how detailed everything is. That's how important the sunnah is. It talks about all the different ways that he would sleep, go to the bathroom, brush his teeth, etc., etc. Yet, when he disses someone that you like, oh no, I can't do that. And it's so retarded. So retarded. I can't think of any other word for it. You know what I mean? You've downplayed the Prophet. I don't care if you think he's the greatest prophet of all time, etc., etc. He's still a prophet. Stop downplaying a prophet. Right?
It's Ryan is blasphemous, you know. The Prophet is sent as a role model for society to follow, and then to believe that he would just randomly go around cursing someone, swearing at them, right? And in this case, he did it with Muawiyah. And if we want to accept this tradition, and we literalist in the sense that I'm not a literalist person, but if you're a literalist person and you don't look for ta'wil interpretation when it comes to looking at hadith, then why don't you accept this hadith at face value when it comes to cursing Muawiyah? Oh no! It doesn't mean a curse; it means a prayer. So Allah's messenger was actually, when he curses people, it's actually a prayer for them. Okay.
Once again, the term that always comes back when talking about Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah is cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, once again, is when you hold a belief, then at the same time hold a contradicting belief or do a contradicting action. That's the entire Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah aqidah. It's just a bunch of contradictions. You know what I mean? You might disagree with the 12ers. You might think, oh, you know, they believe this, but then at the same time they believe that. That's so strange. That's just, I can't accept that. At least we're consistent. We're consistent. Some of our scholars might differ and et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Classically, we're consistent. Okay? And, you know, before all the politics, the nation states and all that came about, we were consistent. And people will be like, well, we can't really tell with you guys because of taqiyya and all this kind of stuff. We've already seen that Muawiyah did taqiyya. You'd like him.
We already seen Muawiyah did taqiyya when it comes to accepting Islam.
Stop acting like a bunch of ostriches. Get your heads out of the sand and start worrying about your souls. You know what I mean? You talk about us, how we, you know, some people might curse certain people and etc. like that. The Prophet cursed the same people. You're saying we cursed. We're just doing, if we're doing it, what the Prophet did. Exactly. You know what I mean? We're just doing what the Prophet did. We're Muslims. That's what we're supposed to do. It's just, it's absolutely insane. Far out.
Okay,
can't handle these people.
Daniel. Okay, so this position from say Muslim. Some argue that it was a supplication for Muawiyah. Yeah.
That's,
how would you respond to those people?
That's really interesting because I mean, as if this hadith wasn't already obvious enough that this was actually a curse, and I mean, it's in the in the chapter that shows us it was a curse. But I mean, we have the narration again. I don't think that we should have to read it again. We can jump to what Ibn Kathir was commenting on this hadith in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. He's telling basically the background story of this. So this is again the narration. Ibn Kathir basically quotes it in the almost same wording as Muslim does. And so we jump to the place where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, all right, said, may Allah not fill his belly. And Ibn Abbas said, and he never felt full in his belly after that. Ibn Kathir, I say, Muawiyah indeed never felt full after that, and this supports the fact that it is said during his caliphate he used to eat food with meat every day 7 times and still say, by Allah, I got tired, but I do not feel full yet. And I mean, before we continue, let's all imagine how that would feel. I mean, we just had our iftar and we are now feeling glad. Our belly is, alhamdulillah, filled. And how would it feel if you get tired and you're still hungry and you eat? I mean, that's terrible. That's something. I mean, they are pretty sarcastic if they say that would be a merit or something good for Muawiyah. I mean, maybe they hate him. Maybe they really hate him, so they are very sarcastic about him. Because I don't want to feel like that. Like, I mean, I eat 7 times a day and still feel hungry and then get tired. I mean, that's hell. Ibn Kathir continues in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. Says when Muawiyah became the ruler of Syria, he used to eat 7 times a day. The bowl which he was brought of him.
Daniel,
Yeah.
See, I train and I eat, but I wouldn't say I eat excessively. But 7 times a day, I don't even think bodybuilders would you know.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't do sports for a while, but I remember when I was at fitness too, man. I mean, 7 times a day. Let's see what he ate. His vessels were full of meat and onions. He would eat from the bowl 7 times a day, along with a lot of sweets and fruit.
You know what? I just thought of something, right? Those were 7 times that people witnessed.
Well, yeah. Yeah. We don't know what he did in between.
Exactly. Think about how many times when he must have been binge eating his chocolates and his
had a quick snack,
smoothies or whatever you want to call it.
Talking about training and stuff like that. Just as a quick, I just want to say, anyone watching the show, give us a like if you think Sayyid Ali's arms have gotten much bigger as the series. Give us a like, and if you want to see Sayyid Ali's progress continue, just give us a subscribe.
I'm going to get you back on that one. Don't worry, I'll come back to you on that one. Daniel, can you share your screen, please?
Yeah, you see my screen?
Yeah, brilliant.
All right. Despite this, he would say, by God, my belly is not full, but I'm tired, and food is a form of blessing with which all kings are interested. I mean, okay, he considers himself a king already. Very nice. And Ibn Abi Shayba says in his Al-Musannaf, Muawiyah was the first person who started giving sermon while sitting, and this happened at the time when Muawiyah got the thick layers of fat and his stomach grew large. Wow, inshallah. We can literally imagine him sitting on the mimbar, filling out the whole mimbar.
You know what, Daniel? It doesn't sound much of a blessing, does it? It sounds more like a curse.
Not really. I mean, he made a fool of himself, looking like I don't know. I don't want to say anything rude about it, but wouldn't be a nice look. And well, it's hard to believe that this is supposed to be a blessing. I mean, let's be honest. This is something really embarrassing for him, that he couldn't even stand on the mimbar, that he was tired, that he was never get satisfied with food. I mean, that's a terrible feeling. And if this was supposed to be a blessing, well, I don't know how they imagine Jannah.
That's true. You're right. This is supposed to be a person who is, you know, he's supposed to be a great warrior, apparently.
Muawiyah was a great warrior.
Yeah, apparently so.
He used to roll over the enemies.
So in terms of eating, excessively, we must have hadith from the Prophet, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
what's the hadith from the Prophet about those who excess?
Let me share my screen again. There are hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that in al-Bukhari, Ibn Umar said, narrated by Amr, Ibn Nahik was a voracious eater, and Ibn Umar said to him, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, a kafir eats in 7 intestines, eats much. So we have the number 7 again here, most important.
Ironically, conveniently.
Yeah, that's very revealing. Yeah, and narrated Abu Huraira, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, a Muslim eats in 1 intestine, while a kafir eats in 7 intestines. And again, Abu Huraira, a man used to eat much, but when he embraced Islam, he started eating less. That was mentioned to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and then he said, a believer eats in 1 intestine, and a kafir eats in 7 intestines. It's all in Sahih Bukhari. So, see the reference here. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much... we don't need to say anything more about this. I mean, we have even the number 7 is in there. I mean, if we can count 2 and 2 together, well, leave it open to the viewers. But I mean, eating excessively, of course, is not from the Sunnah, and yeah, I mean, and it's a sign of bad behavior, and it's animalistic, and it's recommended to only fill your belly to 2/3, and this is even not healthy. I mean, it's every doctor would tell you, okay, or you're actually committing suicide step by step by just filling yourself up. And this is actually also something we should think about in Ramadan, that we should not make ourselves balloons after iftar. And
Not make myself like Muawiyah.
yeah. Maybe we otherwise maybe we.
I think
Slight
something
echo.
that we should note too. Yeah.
Let me just put my microphone. I think it may be either my
Am I doing a khutbah or something? I got the echo thing going on. There's no. It's quite interesting when you look at these traditions regarding Muawiyah and stuffing his face like a pig, reportedly. We compare that to Imam Ali alayhi salam, and how he was such a modest, he was very modest in everything that he did, especially when it came to eating. You know what I mean? I'm not sure how many ahadith Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah have from admirable 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗕𝗘 alayhi salam regarding eating and stuff like that.
Right. It's quite unfortunate that
Yeah.
you this, because if you look at the way Imam Ali alayhi salam, who's been described in their books to being
Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, that sucks for them. Okay, I forgot they think he's a short, bald little fat man.
Yeah,
for Allah, like that's horrible. Imam Ali, if you look at our books, right, and you see what is attributed to admirable 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗕𝗓𝗏 alayhi when it comes, and I'm talking about the admirable 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗧, not any other person that may use that title. I'm talking about Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. If you look at what he said when it came to eating and traditions regarding him eating, he was incredibly modest. He even said when it came to eating meat, you look at Arabs, but at least from my experience, Arabs, meat, everything. We have a tradition where Imam Ali alayhi salam said, don't turn your stomachs into a graveyard, or don't be a resting place for bones. You know what I mean? So in other words, it's saying it's not, don't overindulge yourself with meats, and that works with modern medicine as well. You're not supposed to be eating like crap loads of meat. For the average person, obviously certain tribes around the world have, predominantly meat diets, etc. Blah, blah, blah. It's not relevant. And so then we compare it to Muawiyah, who, as I just said, and as you boys have already reported, how he would eat. And what the Prophet ﷺ, he said about people that would overeat. I mean, this is like only a minor thing that we can touch on, but it's important that we note that when talking about all these figures and etc. and blah, 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 it's always good to compare them to someone else. They have to have a standard.
to compare these people to. If you want to lift the Prophet up to a status that, you know, he's untouchable for us, you can't compare him to anyone else. But if you want to compare a Sahabi to another Sahabi, I challenge any Sunni to make a list of all the merits of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and then try to get any other Sahabi to match all of them.
Yeah, you can't.
Any of them. Any of them.
You can't.
And at the same time, do the same for Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein, alayhim salam, because you won't be able to do it. What'd you say?
A friend of mine also admitted
It's funny you mentioned that. I was having the same conversation with someone else yesterday. You know, even if you to look at these personalities and you compare them to anyone else, you think there's nobody like them.
No. And if you even too, if you look at the Quran, it says, like, honestly, I challenge anyone, I don't care what sect you belong to, right? Go look through our history, even if you're not even a Muslim, right? And you just like Islamic history and stuff. I know Jews and non-Muslims actually enjoy reading Islamic history, and they don't, not with any animosity or anything, they just like reading about it. You know, go look at what the Quran itself lays out, right? Lays out as being what defines a mu'min. And then see, according to Sunni Hadith, how many people actually fit that criteria. 100%.
Sure.
Because I personally can't. I can probably count 10.
Yeah.
I could, with all my hands and toes, I could probably count that many people from the Sahaba that actually met those requirements.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Were they another 10 who were promised paradise? Were they?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to them. We'll get to them. But yeah, that's what.
Ryan, just on a quick point, I just want to add further to Brother Daniel's point about showing that excessive eating, you know, a person who does this is declared to be a kafir, according to the Hadith of the Prophet. And there's one more tradition I'd like to bring up, and this is from Ishaq ibn Ibrahim ibn Hani al-Nishapuri, and the Hadith number is, the tradition is number 1866, and it says, I asked Abi Abdullah Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and he was told by al-Dalawi that I heard Ali ibn al-Jad saying, by Allah, Muawiyah died on a religion other than Islam. And this tradition is authentic, by the way. All these people who narrated this, you can see that according to this, the teacher of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, al-Dalawi, he considered Muawiyah to be a kafir. And this is from Masail Ahmad ibn Hanbal, volume 2, page number 4, tradition number 1866. And there it is, and by all means you can read it up for yourself. So, and this was the teacher, I believe, of Ahmad ibn Hanbal. I'm mistaken on that. If I am, I'll correct myself for the next show. But, you know, again, you know, what's the issue? You know, your teachers of your religion even consider Muawiyah to be a kafir, and he's cursed according to the Hadith of the Prophet. And it's quite clear that this was not something which was said in his praise. Rather, it was clearly it was a curse on him. You know, it was a curse that he was an extremely fat man who, you know, he had faults. You know, he had weight issues. Right? If you're not careful, you're gonna end up doing the same thing, doing the same thing as well.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think if you guys saw my physique, I wouldn't have a problem with any of that. But yeah,
wasn't that
okay?
There's also a hadith. I don't know if it's authentic. It's in Ansab al-Ashraf.
Yeah. But you know
that
what,
one?
Daniel? The tradition says that Muawiyah would die in a religion other than Islam. Yeah.
That one, and there's also the one where the Prophet ﷺ was sitting when Abu Sufyan passed by on a camel.
We're going to come to that in the next show. Because we're not.
Next show? All right, let's keep it for the next show, inshallah.
So I think for now we'll wrap it up. And yeah, the tradition you mentioned, it is in that book, but I think we can perhaps discuss it in the next show.
Let's do it next time.
Inshallah ta'ala.
Right, did you want to open this up to the public or anything? Because we can share the link in the.
Yeah. If anyone would like to come on and ask any questions, we usually get a few brothers jump on and ask us a few questions. Feel free to
join us. What time is it over there in Deutschland at the moment, Brother Daniel?
Well, it's 1:20 a.m. So I won't stay up too long from now on because in 2 hours.
I'm going to share the link now for the viewers to join. So feel free to join.
Yeah.
The link should be...
Daniel's signing signatures.
Yeah, doing special signatures today. So yeah, so that's it. I think inshallah, Ryan, if you want to end the show, inshallah next week Thursday, sure. Ryan, have we got a special guest possibly for next week Thursday?
We do. Are we going to keep it a secret until then, or I don't know if it's been confirmed? I think what we'll do, I think we might keep it a secret until you know, I don't want people. We do have a surprise in the works for people that wish to tune in. I don't want to go into it more, but I do recommend people coming. Look, our shows are great. They're informative. They're funny. You're gonna tune in again anyway. So, but more so, I recommend people tuning into the next show for someone that will have feature at the end of it. So, inshallah ta'ala, that happens, and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I hope everyone, to those fasting, may Allah give you the strength to continue the fast. For those who have finished their fast for the day, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your fast. And boys, thanks for that today. And we'll see you again next week. Masalama.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.